we have to talk a little bit more about the 60 Minutes interview. This is real this time, okay? And we were struggling to figure out how to title this portion of the show in the form of the YouTube video, because yesterday we did a little bit more of a facetious, oh, they edited the Trump 60 Minutes interview. That Trump made such a big deal of that with Kamala Harris, and now there's obvious edits. But we didn't yet have, or at least have the time, to examine the transcript and compare it with what was released. And now we have, and if you're MAGA and you think it was reasonable for Trump to sue CBS, then use his government power to force them into paying him through a settlement so that he would let their merger go through, and you think his frivolous lawsuit was legit and wasn't just extortion because 60 Minutes edited a Kamala Harris interview to shorten a longer answer, but at two different times when they broadcast it, they played in totality the full thing, but just, well, half of it here, half of it there. If you think that was worthy of his lawsuit, then you must think that someone has the right to sue Trump and or 60 Minutes over the edits that I'm going to show you. So let's kind of wade into these waters, starting with this. Trump, before the interview came out, said, I want to watch it. Maybe I'll TiVo it. Best invention. Have you ever heard of it? TiVo. Most advanced, like AI.
A very good job. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm going to try and watch 60 Minutes, but I may be delayed. Let's see if they treat me better than they treat other people. Although, I do say this, they treated Kamala very well. Are you going to watch it again? In fact, they changed their answers. Are you going to watch it again? I will try, but we may land just as it starts, right? It's very split second. But thank goodness for TiVo, or something thereof, right? TiVo. We're a big fan. We love TiVo. We love TiVo. One of my favorite, one of the greatest inventions in history. Have a good time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
The most, I say this with love to all of our older audience members, but that is like such an old man thing to say. TiVo, so revolutionary. There's a little cooler things now that have been out for a while. Blockbuster is pretty cool. You know, Netflix, they went from delivering it to your house to doing it. You can stream them anytime you want. Like they'll put it doesn't even go out. It's like it comes out and you can watch it whenever you want on Netflix. It's crazy. It's crazy. So now we actually get to the subject at hand here. Democrats want FCC probe, calling for the same thing they did over the Harris interview, of 60 Minutes trimming Trump Binance pardon exchange. We talked about earlier in the show, the Binance of it all, and CZ. And so let me play this answer for you. And I'll be skipping back and forth between the answer and the transcript. We'll be following along. And then what's so interesting is, of course, they edited heavily the 60 Minutes interview that was broadcast. That makes sense because it's limited time. But then they released the extended interview on YouTube where there's no time restrictions. And still in the extended interview, they edited out a really key part where Trump gets flustered enough about her corruption questions that he threatens to walk out of the interview. And they cut that even out of the extended. The only place you can find it is in the transcript, which who goes to CBS.com and look for the transcript of the interview? You got to read the whole thing. And reading Trump will give you brain damage. Reading his speaking will give you brain damage. It's been proven. I got an MRI over it with Trump, and then I took a cognitive test, and it's pretty easy at the beginning, zebra, a horse, but then at the end it gets more complicated. You compare some activity. So let me play this for you. Read along with me as he talks, and I'll show you the part that they cut out. And again, I wouldn't be that wowed by this if it weren't for it changing the message a little bit, which is exactly what he wrongfully accused them of doing to help Kamala Harris. And you can find a bunch of segments where we actually go through the exact clips with that whole thing. And that started a domino effect that led to CBS bending the knee completely to Trump. And now they got Barry Weiss there doing her thing, fundamentally changing in a lot of what you had the Paramount person who was causing 60 Minutes producers to resign because she was putting so much pressure to not be too critical of Trump as they're trying to get this merger to go through, as the lawsuit. So all that's important. to understand as we watch this.
People that are stupid.
Click the subscribe button. I appreciate it. Millions of people watch who aren't subscribed. All you got to do to support what we do here, pretty great. We can do a bunch of free content. We do have members only content. You can get the join button below. But all I ask of y'all mainly is the subscribe button, which is free.
Go ahead.
This is a question about pardons. The Trump family is now perhaps more associated with cryptocurrency than real estate. You and your sons, Don Jr. and Eric, have formed World Liberty Financial with the Witkoff family,
Right.
helping to make your family millions of dollars. It's in that context that I do want to ask you about crypto's richest man, a billionaire known as CZ. He pled guilty in 2023 to violating anti-money laundering laws.
Right.
The government at the time said that CZ had caused significant harm to U.S. national security, essentially by allowing terrorist groups like Hamas to move millions of dollars around. Why did you pardon him?
Okay, are you ready? I don't know who he is. I know he got a 4-month sentence or something like that, and I heard it was a Biden witch hunt.
In 2025, his crypto exchange Binance helped facilitate a $2 billion purchase of World Liberty Financial's.
So already there was a cut there. All I heard was a Biden witch hunt, and they cut out this next rant. So we'll see where his response picks up.
Stablecoin. And then you pardoned CZ. How do you address the appearance of pay for play?
Well, here's the thing. I know nothing about it because I'm too busy doing the other.
But he got a pardon. But he got a
No,
pardon.
I can only tell you this. My sons are into it. I'm glad they are because it's probably a great industry, crypto. I think it's good. You know, they're running a business. They're not in government, and they're good. My one son is the #1 bestseller now. My wife just had a #1 bestseller. I'm proud of them for doing that. I'm focused on this. I know nothing about the guy other than I hear he was a victim of weaponization by government. When you say the government...
So before we get to the key part, already they did some reconfiguring, which I don't understand in the extended version. Now, the way this let in also what was which again, normally this wouldn't be super notable. It's happening in front of the backdrop of all of this editing controversy. And so the fact that even in the extended, what's usually what I thought was going to be the unedited YouTube version, still there's some reconfiguration. But nothing really notable is cut out. He just kind of is reiterating stuff. It's later that we get to the notable part. But just to address, because this is a standalone segment, full show viewers, this is a little redundant. But again, remember, after all the Biden autopin drama, Trump is now saying he doesn't know someone he pardoned, which would be crazy. And he's lying, most likely. So he is involved in a really corrupt scheme.
Government, you're talking about the Biden government. It's a corrupt government. Biden was the most corrupt president, and he was the worst president we've ever had. I only care about one thing. Will we be #1 in crypto? Crypto has turned out, and in that sense, I've been right. Crypto's turned out to be a massive industry, if you want to call it that. And I'm very proud to say that we are far and away ahead of China and everybody else. Now, China's getting into it very big right now. If you want to go after people, you're going to kill that industry, and it'll be very bad. Tremendous number of jobs. I campaigned positively on...
So far, just as we're walking through this, podcast listeners, I'm putting up so we can follow along with the transcript to see when it then detaches from the transcript, which is, I guess, the unedited part. But it's interesting, too, because all of this wasn't in it. He gave a short answer in the broadcast version. In any other world, this would be the most insane word salad you've ever heard from a politician. He gets asked about, just to remind you, Binance making this big deal with and supporting and financially benefiting Trump's crypto firm. And then the founder of Binance gets a pardon. And his response is a long, rambling word salad about crypto being strong. But this has nothing to do with the regulation of the crypto industry or Trump administration policy on crypto, this, that, or the other thing. This is, you have no need. You could do whatever you want in public policy on crypto, and it would have it doesn't justify anymore you personally being financially tied to your crypto company that then he's benefiting financially. So he likes to say Kamala gave a word salad, and whenever they gave the CBS Mornings version broadcast where they cut out some of the answer, that made it seem like less of a word salad on an Israel question, and that was election interference. This is chopping down 10 times a word salad than she ever gave.
Crypto, very openly, I campaigned. Biden campaigned against it. When Biden found out that I was getting like 100% of the crypto vote, which was a lot, he switched totally, and he went in favor of crypto. They went totally in favor. They had many people under indictment. They let them all go. They let them all go. You know that. Many people were under indictment. Biden was a corrupt president. Biden went all in on crypto at the very end because he thought he could get some votes. It didn't work. They voted for me. I want to make crypto great for America. That's the only thing. I don't want to have somebody else have crypto.
So your argument is you want to make it great, so you have to have a meme coin, or you have to have World Liberty Financial. It makes no sense. It makes zero sense. It's just a means for money to be funneled to him. That's all. That's the only. It honestly makes American history seem ludicrous that previous presidents would take steps to make sure they didn't have even tiny little cute business ventures, where now you can just billions can flow, and he's like, hey, you get a pardon.
And have China be number one in the world in crypto. Because in crypto, it's a kind of an industry where basically you're going to have number one and you're not going to have a number two. And right now we're number one by a long shot. I want to keep it that way. The same way we're number one with AI, we're number one with crypto. And I want to keep it that way.
I know my time is limited with you, so I want to be respectful of you, Mr. President.
And then it moves on. So that's in even the extended version here on YouTube, President Donald Trump's extended 60 Minutes interview. It obviously wasn't put in the broadcast. It wasn't even put in the extended.
The issue of political violence, I want to get...
And she moves on to political violence. But what happened in the actual transcript is this. He finishes by saying, and I want to keep it that way, which you heard. And then instead of cutting to the political violence question, she says, so not concerned about the appearance of corruption with this? And he says, I can't say because I can't say I'm not concerned. I'd rather not have you ask that question, but I let you ask it. You just came to me and you said, can I ask another question? And I said, yeah, this is the question. Nora says, and you answered. And Trump says, I don't mind, but I let you do it. I could have walked away. I didn't have to answer this question. I'm proud to answer the question. You know why? We've taken crypto. Nora says, but just generally speak, and he said, excuse me, we're number one in crypto in the whole world. Other people want to be. They're fighting like hell, but we're... And then goes on to a whole thing. So, number one, him referencing, I could have walked out, and kind of... I'm glad she had that follow-up, why it wasn't in the interview, either versions, I don't know, where it was described by some as, do I have that? Is this the right headline? There was a particular headline of Trump just giving a stuttery, glitchy response in that. I can't say because I can't say. I'm not concerned. I don't know. I'd rather not have you ask the question. Telling her, don't ask that question. I'd rather not have you ask that question, but I let you ask. I could have walked out. But we don't have the video of it. But that's wild to be like, hey, you didn't answer my question. You just went on a whole ramble about crypto. No, but what about your crypto venture that foreign entities and governments are funneling money through, that people are cozying up to you with, and then boom, they get a pardon. They make you billions. Then you relieve restrictions on chips going to UAE. How on earth largest purchasers of your meme coin get to go to dinner with you? How on earth is that not corruption? And after his whole ramble, he then just resorts to, don't ask me that question. And that wasn't anywhere. Think about if instead of Kamala Harris going, blah, 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 giving like her, you've heard it a million times, boilerplate response on Israel, on Gaza. And she goes through her whole thing. And she kind of like runs through it 2 times. And then they grabbed out the part, same message came through, but just the first, like the second summarization of her own argument that she kind of made. And that was supposed to be election interference because they had to shorten it down, but they broadcasted one version here, one there, and you saw it in its entirety collectively. Imagine if instead she had said, given a bunch of meaningless words, and then the interviewer went, wait, but what do you actually mean on this? And then she went, I can't say because I can't say. I'm not concerned. I'd rather not have you think you fell out of a coconut tree, but I let you ask it. You just came to me and you said, can I ask another question? And I'd rather not answer that question, but I'm proud to answer that question. I don't mind. Did I let you do it? I let you do it. I could have walked away. I could have walked out of this, but I didn't answer. I didn't have to answer. And that's what they cut out, not just of the broadcast, but of the extended interview. And you could only find the transcript. You think that wouldn't have been even more? Trump would have sued for $100 billion instead of, I think it was $20 billion. Outrageous that we had to live through CBS being pummeled. Is this what's the phrase? Bent over a barrel, right? Spanked. Over and over and over and over and over and over and over again by Trump. And then next time he goes in this interview, his is even more outrageous, making him look terribly, glitching out like that, freaking out over a corruption question. And MAGA won't care. They won't go, maybe that whole thing Trump did to spank into submission his mediality doesn't like wasn't good. And because now we're learning, oh, wait, the justification he used to do that to CBS was ludicrous. Because if we held ourselves to that same standard, this would be ludicrous to us. At one point in the transcript, you have Trump saying, you see the difference in D.C.? And Norah O'Donnell said, D.C.? And Trump said, yes. She said, I think I've been working too hard. I've been out and about that much. I haven't been out and about that much. Trump said, oh, that's not a fair answer. You see the difference. Come here, Norah. Come here. You see it. I know you see it. Norah says, I get in my car and I go to work and I go home. Trump said, that's good. You don't have to use that one. Don't worry. I don't want to embarrass her. And that led to a headline here. Don't have to use that one. Trump acts like he runs CBS on 60 Minutes. He was like deciding what gets to be in it and not. Not normally how it goes. Tim Miller said 60 Minutes did not air the part where Trump discusses his success in extorting the network and calls them fake news. This edit is harmful to me and I'm considering suing. So doing the thing that we referenced. And yeah, they cut that out. He brought up his extortion of 60 Minutes and bragged about it. Oh, that didn't make it. And so there were different articles like the 5 wildest moments you didn't see in Trump's interview. And most of them we've talked about him praising Barry Weiss. Trump dunks on 60 Minutes for the extortion. Trump threatens to walk out over what we just talked about. Trump re-ups his rigged election claims, swerves from political violence to shut down politics. So this is kind of the close. It's the beginning of the story of Trump targeting media outlets he doesn't like, but it's the most brutal ending to the Harris 2024 election lawsuit arc. That it all ended with him going back on and proving that all the while we were correct to point to that being so frivolous. And what can make you go a little crazy in this line of work is that nothing changes. So we're right. We were right all along. Trump was wrong. Now what? You know what I mean? It used to be like if you could evidentially support and your claim and prove someone wrong, like that meant something. Now it's just, yeah, but Trump was doing it to an outlet I didn't like and was using an argument that was silly, but we pretended like made sense because it worked for us. Now, I saw conservative media was also taking issue with some of the edits. Steven Crowder said if CBS is so confident in their version of the 60 Minutes Trump interview, they shouldn't panic when people see the full cut. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. So here's a clip from Steven Crowder's show where he didn't show that one, I don't think, but where he shows the comparison he was upset with.
And all we're saying, give us an extension, we'll work it out. They've lost their way. They've become crazed lunatics. And all they have to do, Norah, is
this
say,
is what they aired.
Let's vote.
So, Hakeem,
Senate Democrats say they will vote to reopen the government if Republicans agree to extend subsidies for over 20 million Americans who use Obamacare for their health insurance.
And all we're saying, give us an extension, we'll work it out. They've lost their way. They've become crazed lunatics. And all they have to do, Norah, is say, let's vote. And you can the economy could open up during our interview.
Is there something you can
maybe
do,
it did.
though? Is there something you
All I
can
can
do to
do
bring this
is
to
give
an
the
end?
facts. Here's what I can't do. I can't give them $1.5 trillion so that they can give welfare to people that came into our country illegally, so that prisoners and that people from mental institutions and people that are drug dealers get vast amounts of money for health care. That I can't do.
So podcast listeners, in response to that clip, Steven Crowder makes the face. I don't know what we're supposed to be shocked by there. I feel like what I just laid out for you, that's a pretty interesting omission. They edited out of the broadcast him saying the thing he said 100 times in the broadcast, so why would you include it 100 times? Is less of a notable event.
Wow.
Wow.
I understand, and there are some examples in this interview where they just omitted some portion of the interview. They have to edit it down for time, I get that, but in some cases you get it, you go, okay, maybe this subject repeated themselves, or maybe it wasn't relevant to the question asked. In this case, Donald Trump is listing the reason for the shutdown. And by the way, that reflects popular opinion now, in spite of the legacy media, not because of the legacy media, where they blame the Democrats for it. But you do have people...
Why would you say that? That's not true. The polling shows the opposite. That's so weird. That's such a random thing to lie about.
in this country who go, we've shut down the government because of Republicans, because of Donald Trump. They want to shut this down. Mm-hmm. They don't know about this at all. You wonder why you have two different Americas? Well, maybe look to...
I can't tell what's on his shirt, bless you, Jaden, but I'm curious. It says there are only, and then it's changed my mind. I'm assuming it says two genders. If I'm just going to guess, I feel like it says there's only two genders. I can't read that. Oh, my eyes are going crazy, but it's blocked by the microphone. That would be a funny thing to walk around wearing. It's like, all right, cool. But, and is that an invitation if you just see him in a coffee shop? Oh, yeah? Have you ever heard of... Okay, but I don't think he watched the full interview. Because we watched the full interview, not the full 90 minutes, but, or the 70 that they released, but the broadcast version. And that's what he was comparing. In the broadcast version, he makes that point about undocumented immigrants and insane asylums, mental institutions, healthcare. Now, it's a lie, which Steven Crowder won't say, which is Democrats are not in this funding battle trying to get funds for health insurance for undocumented immigrants. Just not true. Just a lie. But even if that is what Steven Crowder wants Trump to be on the record saying, he said it multiple times in the interview. At least once. So that's why they would cut it out, because he's made that point just in that moment. Wasn't necessary to play again. And it's also not true. So broadcasting that is not super journalistically ethical. Mehdi said, it's a stupid question on the question about... So the question went, did you instruct the Justice Department to go after Comey, James, and Bolton? And Trump said not at all. So the response from Mehdi is, it's a stupid question that allows him to lie. I have begged journalists for years to stop asking Trump opinion questions, yes or no questions, and instead ask him questions like, why did you do? How do you justify doing what we all know he did? For example, pressuring Bondi. And that also bothered me. They fact-checked it, where they asked him, did you direct your Justice Department to target your political opponents? And he goes, no, I didn't. They're just bad people. And then they go, well, he did send out this post, and then a few days later, Comey was indicted. So that does add fact to it, but it's weird to even ask the question. Like, you want to sit down and go, is your name Trump? Why would you do that? In this case, there's no question. He did it publicly. He said, Pam, go after these people. And then she did 3 days later. So, like, why are we framing it as, did you? No, you didn't? Weird, because you posted this, but maybe not. It should be, why did you direct in a social media post? The other thing that's annoying is I don't feel like his posts get thrown back at him enough in these interviews. They don't like, well, here's the post, dude. Defend it. Which I'm going to actually say this. I haven't said it in months. I've been trying because some people got a little nauseated with how often I said it. I've heard one interviewer, and I could have missed it, but I keep up with most Trump interviews. I've heard one interviewer read back to Trump his termination of the Constitution post and have him respond to it. Think about that. You call to terminate the thing, and only one interview brings it up in years. they should be reading his posts back to him and make him respond more often, because often he, like that, calling Pam to go after these people, and then he just gets to go, no, that's not true, and everyone just moves on. Ron Filipkowski said, no, CBS will not settle any lawsuits against them that people may bring for editing out over half of Trump's interviews, since none of you are in a position of power to approve their merger with any other media companies. Exactly, because that's really why it happened. And then in the conversation of editing of interviews, we do have to look at the greatest of all time. And by that, I mean the worst of all time. There's never going to be an interview edit that quite misleads like this one.
Would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah.
Would you,
I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so, because, you don't know. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there, because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world.
So that was the unedited version. This was the originally broadcasted version.
Would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah.
Would you,
I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
And then it moves on to the next question. There will never be an edit like that. So in a world where that happened, where they cut out him going, well, I don't ever want to hear about edits from MAGA. I don't. I can never believe that really happened. And then MAGA was like, yes, he's going to do it. And then I saw Candace Owens, when Trump started covering up the files, did this segment like, hey, guys, did y'all see this clip from the campaign where he gets asked? And in the unedited version, he goes, well, not so much, because it's sort of phony stuff about people. And she said, I didn't realize that was out there. We should have known. It's like, yeah, Candace, you should have.